what I see, it's about decisions. If it's about people fighting about the best decision, because this I'm right.
Yeah.
Why don't we just go this direction? And one other way to sort out kind of the best decision is putting kind of option A, B, C, asking is there any other? Can we mix those options? And then pros and cons, and then asking them, we do not need to decide now, but if we would decide now, what would be your voting? And if that is already consensus, then we are already there. If there's dissent, then it's sometimes balanced. Then it's on the one hand nearly the same as on the other hand, and then we can just I call it würfeln in German. Then we can. It doesn't matter so much. I mean, if it's balanced.
Hi and welcome to the Sunday Lunch Project Manager podcast for Sunday the 14th of January 2024. This is your host Nigel Creaser, and this week we've got the second part of my interview with Iris Clermont, the business coach. Enjoy. So if you're listening to this, that means you've had a week's gap from episode 1, part 1, which means that you've had a week where you've been wondering what on earth was going to be said next in the next pieces, wondering what other nuggets of information were coming from my guest. And you've had a week where you haven't been able to apply those nuggets because you didn't know they existed or what they were, which is a little bit frustrating really, because imagine how much more efficient, productive or amazing you could have been. But you know there's a way around it. You know that you can pop along to Patreon, www.patreon.com/SundayLunchPM, or to Spotify, have a look at the feed, and there's a little lock. Click on the lock and it'll ask you to pay. It's the price of a coffee. That's it. A month. And you'll get everything a week early. And you won't have bits like this in it with me wittering on about becoming a patron and things like that. So have a think. And anyway, I'll shut up now because you're probably thinking, just get on with it, Nigel. So yeah, here's the second part of the show. So I have a number of sponsors, affiliate links in the way that it's set up, that have kindly allowed me to share their services really. The first one is Mike Clayton, and Mike runs online PM courses, and it is a great resource for getting those fundamentals of project management trained, reasonably priced, and Mike presents it in an accessible and clear manner. You can check out some of his videos on his YouTube channel and kind of give you a view of where they are. But the code for that, if you go to nigelcreaser.com/online PM courses, all one word, lowercase, that'll redirect you to it. There's very different levels that you can buy. You can buy individual courses, you can buy pathways as well if you like, and I get a kickback off those. Mike kindly shares me that, so if you do jump on and use it, I hope you find it really useful. I think he has money back guarantees and things like that as well, so there's very limited risk on that, so jump on that. And that again, it's nigelcreaser.com/online PM courses, and enjoy.
So with this listening exercise, teams can really explore how their listening skills really are, because most of us think, yes, I'm a great listener, especially the project leaders. And then with the rhythm exercise, you think, okay, can I really repeat a kind of longer rhythm? No, usually not.
Yeah.
And then you realize it. And with words is the same. We had a lovely exercise, and I describe it in the book as well, within a jazz formation. The kind of coach was asking, okay, we were playing and we were not really playing together. It was not really creating a sound. And then the coach was saying, okay, I'm going to stop you. And whenever I stop you, I will ask you who was playing what kind of sound and what kind of rhythm. Was it the drummer or the pianist or the saxophonist? So we really raised our attention because we were aware the coach can stop any moment, and then we will be asked, what was the piano playing right now? What was the saxophonist playing right now? What was the flute playing? And just with the raised attention, there was so much music in this room.
Yeah.
It was really fantastic. And the same as within meetings. If you say, okay, let's start in the beginning. We stop each moment, and I'm going to ask you what was happening, what was the other one saying. And with this raised awareness, we are so much more attentive.
Yeah, I can see that, because it's so easy in a meeting. I do it myself, I'm terrible at times, where you will try, and even more so now in the remote environments that we work in, where we've got email sat on one screen, this on there, and the conversation here. And you can just it's easier to drift. I can see that situation where you've got only part of the story that you're hearing, and especially if you're a PM and you're running a team there, and you've got a stand-up, or you've got a team meeting where you're talking about a problem that you're trying to solve. That whole thing of that active listening, that not thinking about what you're going to say next, that we all do, and we can all be better at. And I just think that how I introduce that concept of, if I stop now and ask you what we were talking about, would you be able to repeat it, the last minute of words? Would you be able to, or even if you can't repeat the content, the words word for word, but would you be able to paraphrase it? Hand on heart, I think most people would say no. There's very few people who would be able to do that in a meeting, which makes, it's worrying, isn't it? Because how much of it are they assimilating, and how much of they, when they do come back with a conversation, do they bring it in? Now, sometimes it's important that happens, sometimes it isn't as important, but I can understand that thinking of it in that manner, that you have that group in that room, and whilst you're taking turns in the conversation, if you're not listening, that rhythm's not there, is it?
Yeah, and how important is it to paraphrase, to summarize in between? That cannot be done enough. Yeah. And even if you don't like it as a moderator or as a project manager, you can ask around in the team, hey, I didn't get it really. Can somebody summarize it here now? Or what is your facet? Or can you describe it in one sentence? And everybody's happy that someone is summarizing it. And from there you can kind of take a deep breath, and from there you can raise again and asking, okay, what are the next actions now? What are your ideas? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've got a colleague who does that really, really well, actually. And I was just thinking, the way that he does it is, if someone will say, we're trying to get to understanding customer requirement or business requirement, and they will say, so what I'm hearing is, you need this, and why do you need this? You need it because of the, and he'll follow that conversation, and he will replay. What I'm hearing is, you need this. Because you need this, then we need to do this in order for you to get that. And why you need that is, and kind of joins that whole sentence in that re-summarization of it, and does it really well. Confuses me sometimes because it gets down into some technical stuff, and but does it in a way that the other person can sit there and go, yes, that's what I said. You've got it right, and that you understand it. And that reframing of it, wording it, sometimes word it in terms that they understand rather than technical terms. I've done it before. I don't do it anywhere near as well as he does it. And I just think that whole, again, it's the same sort of thing, isn't it? It's the repeating of those phrases, repeating of that rhythm, and being able to kind of, I know it sounds silly, and we've got the musical analogy. I'm thinking of the film Deliverance with the dueling banjos, where you've got the banjo plays one thing, guitar plays another. It's not actually the same. It's slightly different, isn't it? It's a might be the same notes, but it's on a different instrument, sounds slightly different, and it is a different way of doing it. You're doing it in a different point on the instrument, and then you go back into. But you're kind of mirroring each other's on that, but it's also playing back your own, and then they build a little bit extra onto it, and there's another bit added, and it kind of builds on that, and it just maybe that's a bit of a twee mix-up, but it kind of feels like that's what we do in meetings, don't we? We kind of have that conversation. If we've listened properly, paraphrase it, say it, and then someone will come back, well, actually, that's not what I meant. I missed a bit off there, so actually, this is what I meant. So they add that little bit extra on, and then, oh, right, so when you said that, I hear this. And it is really useful. It can get too much because you can be going back to it, but that listening, that clarification as part of listening is part of listening, isn't it?
And it's you spoke in the beginning about rituals,
yeah.
right? And like in Agile, it's ceremonies,
yeah.
And it's a bit like that. This paraphrasing, summarizing in between. That is giving us a frame, like in music as well. Like, this is the frame, and here we are in those frames, and this gives us the safety as well.
Yeah, because you know what, we all like structure. I think even the most unstructured of us, there's a level. I can be fairly flaky, is the best way to describe me, but I also like I've got real good structure, and like. I've got my calendar, I know what I'm doing then, I know what I'm doing then, I know what I'm doing then. I do like that. I don't always do it, but I do like it. And I think, again, you've got those frames that you can box yourself into, but with that flexibility to go around them. But if you don't have that structure to know that you're going outside of it, it makes it a bit harder. I suppose it's that whole thing of where they're teaching people playing jazz, which you've got to learn the rules before you can break them, kind of thing. And you've got to have that.
Then breaking would mean kind of blue note as well. I mean, it's kind of, and that is blue note is standing for me for conflict, and allowing that and playing it really like there's a sound with a blue note or the septima chords, and then something new is coming out of that. In business, it's similar. I mean, people crash, but if all of us accept, this is good because there is potential in each conflict. When there's a conflict, it's hooray, there is something we can improve.
Yeah, how do you in when you're coaching, when you've got, and I've seen this with teams where I've gone into teams and they're working with other parties, other third parties, or with suppliers, or with other departments, and I've seen it where there's kind of been a pitched battle between the two groups. How do you? I know how I dealt with it, and I'm just interested to see how you advise people when they're in, because I'm sure you've gone into organisations where you have got departments or supply people where they're just at each other's throat. What do you do to help those organisations?
Yeah, I work closely with a cartoonist, and I mean there's lots of cartoons in here, and I just show them kind of. Like I have one about walls and fighting. Here's kind of one with distrust. Yeah,
I can see that. Yeah.
And
for our listeners, there's like a wall, and then there's looks like a cage, and some people trying to inside one side or the other. Yeah.
And
jump on YouTube to get a look at about 33 minutes. There you go.
Yeah, and then the other one was saying, how could a team look like with trust? Just as an example, or with walls in between, and you are hiding behind walls, or you're shooting at each other, rather than having ideas and sharing. So both pictures are reflect, and then they see, this is really how we act. But it's in a cartoon, so you have a distance to that, but you can reflect to that. And once you see that, then they explore by themselves. This is how we want to work. Yeah, we want to share ideas. We want to appreciate each other because that is more fun. And how do we come there? This is one option with cartoons. The other one is, I love the conversational IQ dashboard from Judith Glaser, because she's having kind of a red zone and a green zone. And I ask teams, okay, where are we? And then they say, okay, are we in this kind of modus, I'm right and the other one is wrong? Because usually that is what if there are different areas, each team thinks, we are brilliant, if just the other one would change, life would be so much easier. If all are that intelligent, if all are the same like me, life would be beautiful. And then I reflect that and I ask, is that really true? And most people say, if all would be like me, maybe that wouldn't be such a brilliant world indeed.
Yeah, I find that we just lost you for a little bit there, but I think I caught the gist of it. I find that we've got I don't know if you will have heard of the disc model, and I like that disc model, and the fact that whole point of that disc model is, as I describe it, it makes you understand why that other person at the other end is a bit of a dickhead and why they think you're a bit of a dickhead. And it's kind of like people think I'm stupid because they think completely different to me. They don't understand how I work. And I think the same. And then, as you say, you look back at yourself and you go, well, think about me, and I think about the other people who I work with, and I think nothing would get finished if everyone was like me. It wouldn't quite get finished. A lot of things would get started, not everything will get finished. And I think that's the thing, is kind of that blend of people, that blend of character, that blend of skill is so important with those teams. But by having that blend, you're going to get conflict, aren't you? You're going to get misunderstanding, and I've seen teams where they were in that situation where I'm right, you're wrong, and the other side where I'm right, you're wrong, and what they hadn't done is tried to understand why they thought I was wrong. They just thought they were being stupid, bloody-minded, awkward, and we got them together, broke them out into teams, separate teams, so there was co-teams solving the problem, ones from each of the sub-teams. And then they had to solve the problem together. And then they worked together. And then they had to understand why something wouldn't work. And they actually listened to each other. And then they think, oh, so when we do that causes you that problem. Oh, I never knew that. And then when they said, well, and when the opposite way around, but when you do that causes us this problem. Oh, I never knew that. And that dialogue, it didn't. To be fair, there were some individual characters there, but they didn't. It did change the relationship because they opened up to each other about what doing it one way affected them. And we had to take them out there and abstract it to something separate. It wasn't just a meeting. It was a broken up, curated workshop with lots of unusual stuff. We used different themes to break it out and do different things, so that it actually kind of create it. And it sounds like you're saying with the cartoons, where you're creating a less confrontational space. And I've seen sort of things with using Lego Serious Play to do similar sort of things, because then it's not about individuals, it's about explaining a process, it's about explaining a situation, and it can be less confrontational. Because once those brick walls go up, it's hard to bring them back down again, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's usually about clarity and transparency, understanding, listening skills, and and occasionally, or what I see, it's about decisions. If it's about people fighting about the best decision, because this I'm right,
Yeah.
Why don't we just go this direction? And one other way to sort out kind of the best decision is, putting kind of option A, B, C, asking is there any other, can we mix those options, and then pros and cons, and then asking them, we do not need to decide now, but if we would decide now, what would be your voting? And if that is already consensus, then we are already there. If there's dissent, then it's sometimes balanced. Then it's on the one hand nearly the same as on the other hand, and then we can just, I call it würfeln in German, then we can, it doesn't matter so much. I mean, if it's balanced.
Yeah, I think it's not, again, it's introducing that non-confrontational way of having a difficult conversation, isn't it? Where you sit there and go, right, we're not making a decision at the moment, but what's your best recommendation? What do you reckon? What do you reckon? What do you reckon? Brilliant. Okay, fine, that's right. Right, so, you don't think that's why? Out of curiosity, why don't you think it's a good idea? And rather than them going, where, you know what I mean, when everyone's deciding something else, it's kind of, well, let's make sure we make the right decision. What's your reason? Oh, because of this, this, and this. And have a discussion. And it reminds me of the Scrum poker, Agile poker, where you're, in fact, I've got my poker cards there, where you get the one where everyone puts down, right, how big do you think it is? And everyone puts down 1, and someone in the corner is putting down 100. And they're like, why have you got 100? We all think it's easy. And it's like, well, what about X, Y, Z? What about this interface? What about John, who's never here? What about this? And you kind of go, oh, I never thought of that. Or the others come up with, well, that's not a problem because it's not that piece. But the thing would have been, if you didn't do that and didn't have that conversation, you could move forward into something with 2 people or a group of people and 1 person thinking completely different about something. And opening up those conversations is so important to make sure that you're all going for the same direction with the right assumptions. It's really hard sometimes to get those out of people, I think.
Yeah, and the way, and what all these ways had in common is stepping away, like looking at the picture from the distance.
Yeah.
And going into an emotionally peaceful last vacation thinking status, and looking at the decision or whatever, the fight, the conflict, from away from you. I mean, or thinking you are in the mountains or looking at the sea, and those topic is so far away. It's just minus points in the far in the distance, and from that distance looking, okay, how does this issue look like now for you?
Yeah, that taking that step back, taking that breath, and kind of putting on a different lens makes a hell of a difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then again, looking closer to it, I mean, taking this kind of loop and looking really close to this topic. How does it look from really near and big and huge?
Yeah.
And just exploring in a fun way. How does it look? And then you still feel relaxed and you explore different scenarios about it. And then it's a fun topic. And then it takes away this serious, I'm right thing.
Yeah, and getting away from losing face is so important, isn't it? Because it can stifle some people. And it can be easily be done that you can, if someone feels silly for what they're thinking, you need to make it easy for them to go, oh, I'm wrong. It needs to be easy for someone to go, I didn't know that, or I'm wrong. I think they're really hard things to do sometimes for some people, because not everyone, but I think there are some people out there who would struggle when they, and as you say, sometimes they'll dig in to be right rather than for what being right rather than having the right thing. Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. Just thinking about the companies that you've got one of your sort of a little story of where you think you've made the biggest impact with some of the coaching that you've done.
Yeah.
What are you most proud of your coaching, the particular one?
I'm looking at the references, which thanked me. It changed their life, their private life as well. And it's the pattern I see usually is really from getting stuck of being right towards getting this ability to move away from something, this detaching, the skill to detach emotionally and to reflect and to move forward from this backward looking who is faulty towards this much more fun, what can we do now and here and then. And it's about these skills, that the race of skills, changing that. And one was kind of 52 teams as a lead agile coach, which I could transfer from this fighting to watch each other to solution orientation.
So that's 52 teams, did you say? So that's with like Scrum teams and Agile teams, sort of nine people in there, and they were working against each other. Were they all delivering the same product, or were they separate products? Or
they were coming from different organizations altogether, right. And they used to kind of blame each other, and then rather than blaming each other, it was usually saying, "Hey, is that fun to blame each other?" And then they said, "No, it's not fun." So how much more time we save, how much more efficient we are if we don't look into these old stories which make us mad and bring emotional stress for all of us. Let's look what can we do to avoid that next time, to overcome, to become better next time. And then sharing ideas is much more nice.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how different organisations, and especially when there's commercial considerations for those organisations, and if they're not, you can be in a situation where you'll have one organisation that's got two or three organisations working together, but they haven't contracted them in the same way, and they're not getting incentivised in exactly the same way. You can create those difficult barriers, don't they, of those things of, as a commercial organisation, some organisations have got to protect themselves, and it's so hard to break down those getting the trust there, because commercially you've got to protect yourself, but that doesn't actually, in the long run, it doesn't help, does it? And it's really hard as a project manager. If you're delivering a project and you've got one of these teams and you're meant to deliver this, and your customer's going, you've got to do it, and otherwise there's penalties on there. And then you've got another team who's just got a team that are running an ad, they've just got T&M, and they've got a team that they've got no cap on their budget, and they've got no specific outcomes to deliver or specific dates. The team here, who's got that constraint, can be seen as a blocker. But it's kind of like, well, we can't do anything until we've got that signed off. And these guys are like, we'll just do it when we want. We can just move this around. We've got this agile team, we can shift stuff. We're really agile. And the problem is this organisation here just kind of looks at that and goes, why are they working together properly? And they've set them up to fail in those situations, because you've got to put common arrangements of flexibility or lack of flexibility, because otherwise you end up, as you say, they're just going to go, well, we're late because they're all too strict, or we're late because they haven't done it, they haven't done their bit they said they were going to do. Now, because they thought something else was more important, they fitted it in and managed to move around. And it's difficult. I can't. 52 teams. I've seen it with 4 or 5 teams in those scenarios, but 52 teams that are going. Obviously, I'm guessing some of those weren't completely different organisations, but even so, 52 teams that have different direction and different priorities and things like that. I can't imagine how you got them to work together. Was it? Did it take long? Was it easy? Was it really, really, really hard? I'm guessing it wasn't easy.
Yeah, the good part was that was the strategy or the vision to change, and that was to change from blaming towards solution orientated, and from frustration to empowerment. So that made it more easy, this transformation.
But how do you get people to do that? How do you get them to change? Because it's kind of cultural as well, isn't it? With that, if you've got a team, you'll have developed a culture and you'll develop a way of working. How do you actually get people to recognise that? So you're talking 52 teams, you've got 9 in those, you've got, I can't do the maths, 500 people. How do you get 500 people to change that mindset? Like, I guess some of them are going to be better at that in those teams, but how do you do that?
Changing as well, using this agile ceremonies as well, because those helps you. It's a demo where the team can present their results and receive applause from management.
Yeah.
So that's a different attitude than beforehand, where there was no beginning and no end. And then we come back to music, then it's kind of a frame which
we just lost
demo planning, daily stand-ups where the agenda is supporting each other, saying, okay, this is what I have achieved, and can anybody help me? Here I'm blocked.
Yeah.
And with these patterns, same like music patterns, that helps to change the attitude, to change the mindset. And cartoons are helping as well, reflecting, here is where we are at the moment, here's a cartoon we started, and here is the future cartoon.
And what do we do together?
Yeah.
It's interesting using those ceremonies and using them properly, rather than playing lip service to them is kind of what I'm hearing there, because I think there are situations where people put in the agile ceremonies, but they're not. They don't seem to have the full engagement from everyone on the team, and everyone has to be engaged in operating in that manner fully. Otherwise, it's just not. It's just another meeting, then, isn't it?
And taking as well this kind of looking at the picture from the far. Agile means customer-centric. Looking from customer perspective always gives us a similar picture.
Yeah.
And decision or whatever is, or from shareholder perspective. Shareholder and clients, customers' perspective.
Yeah, it depends.
Making that, reminding in difficult scenarios, let's all look as a customer at our topic now, which we are sorting out. How does that look from customer perspective? Therefore, I love this agile ceremonies and looking at that.
Yeah, that customer-centric can it be? Because then again, you're kind of looking at it. I suppose you draw that in when you've got these teams that aren't working together, and if you draw that common thing of, if you're both serving that customer, right? We both want to serve the customer, and once you get on the thing of we want it best for the customer, and then if both individuals that are kind of warring on both teams kind of go, well, we're thinking about the customer and you're not. No, we're thinking about the customer as well. Okay, so we think this is the best for the customer. Oh, well, we think this is the best customer. Why? And then you've started that conversation, but you're not focusing on why they're right or why they're wrong. You're focusing on why this is better for the customer. And again, that takes that abstract, doesn't it? It abstracts you away in that longer view from the work that's being done to the product that's being delivered. Which again, is the outcome, isn't it, on the agile side of it.
And that adds this healthy distance, which is, needed.
Yeah, I get that. Brilliant. I'm just noticing we're not far off an hour, and I know it's getting late where you are, and you do want to get to bed at some point this evening. Is there anything? I think we could have talked for quite a bit longer on this, to be honest. But is there anything that we haven't covered yet that you would thought you'd like to bring out, or you'd like to mention as part of of either of the books or the coaching services that you provide?
Yeah, I wish all the listeners great success and time to breathe, time to take the distance, and I would love the listeners to read Team Rhythm and explore the exercises and hear about the exploration.
Brilliant.
And after all, thinking it's life that we spend together.
Yeah.
And
sometimes we forget that, don't we? Yeah, we forget that we're spending time together, and it might as well be pleasant, isn't it?
Yeah, and Nigel, thank you so much. I mean, I had fun doing this 1 hour.
Oh, good. That's
Thank you.
good. That's good. So if people want to get in touch with you, what do they need to do? What's the best way to get hold of you or get hold of the book or whatever?
Yeah, on the book is all my over LinkedIn, like Iris Clermont, or info@aiccoaching.com is my mail, or my webpage aiccoaching.com.
Brilliant. Superb. I'll put links in the show notes to those anyway. So thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been a fascinating conversation, as I knew it would be. And have a wonderful rest of your evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Another great sponsor of the show comes in the form of Air Manual. Air Manual is it's a tool for documenting process, which and best practices. It's a company formed by one of my interviewees, Alexis Kingsbury. Essentially, and I kind of summarised why my view of where we see documentation, a lot of my experience has been people will document something, a process, they'll put it in a Visio diagram that gets loaded onto a SharePoint site or something similar, and then a bunch of that. So then once that diagram's been shared with senior management, they're happy they have a process in the business. But then the detailed procedures underneath it might be in Word documents, in just poorly kept and not linked easily and not updated. And what Air Manual does, it allows you to put in it's a tool for doing this kind of thing. You whack it in, the service in there, get in there, put in your process, your flow, and you build it down to as low a level of detail, even to the point of checklists where people can check off they've done it. So it creates that guided checklists, easy to create, easy to maintain, and all in one place. And no one's kind of rooting around to find the SharePoint, and then when you change to new SharePoint services and all that stuff, it's all there. So if you pop along to nigelcreaser.com/airmanual, there's a bit more detail there and a link there to click on to go and get. I think they offer a trial and things like that. So it's something that I think can easily reduce the amount of errors, rework, etc. within our organisation. So take a look. Well, I hope you enjoyed that second half of the conversation with Iris. Check out the links, find out more about it, and come back next week, because next week I have got Felicity Dwyer, and we'll be talking about crafting connections. So speak then. Cheers now. Bye. So this is my final wrap up. Every week you're going to hear this. You're going to get bored of it, but you can always click next podcast if so. If you have enjoyed it, if you listen to this podcast to the end of this show and you think that was great, I'd love to be able to help Nige out. There are loads of ways you can do it. The first and obvious way is to share the podcast, send it out to people. If you know colleagues and friends who'd benefit from it, you think they'd enjoy it, just send them the link. Grab one of the links or send them to www.nigelcreaser.com/podcasts. That's www.nigelcreaser.com/podcasts, and that will push them over to a Linktree link, and it's got all of the different ways they can consume the podcast. If you are feeling generous and have a big bag of cash, you could grab a copy of one of my books. Obviously, they're available in all the usual places, in print and digital. Again, jump on the website, www.nigelcreaser.com/shop, and that will give you a list of all the different ways that you can contribute and grab copies of the book. Also got links to all my guests' books on there as well, where I get a little bit of a kickback from them. If you are of a sporting mind, I have a number through doing some of my judo and running antics, I've managed to secure a few affiliate links and affiliates there as well. So in there, somewhere in the sponsors page, there's links to those as well. So clicking onto those and grabbing if you're looking to get super fit, then that would be fabulous as well, and I get a little kickback from those. I have a Patreon account. It's patreon.com/sundaylunchpm. So again, you can ping something in there, buy me a coffee or whatever. And finally, obviously the most important is coming back, listen again, because the more of you that come back, the more visibility I get, because there's more times that it's downloaded and all the SEO works and things like that. So yeah, that's it. So if you can help me out, I would be much appreciated. If you can't, don't worry about it. Thank you very much. Cheers now. Bye. My latest, the latest affiliate that I've got on the show now is Riverside. I use Riverside to do my interviews, Riverside FM. It kind of offers you a whole, if you like, micro studio management producer tooling, and goes beyond that. Has a really good free layer, and I've been using it for a while now. I find it really good. When I've had issues, even though I'm not on one of the higher paid levels, the support has been quick, responsive, and of high quality, and people keen to help me. The organisation seems really good. The product seems really intuitive, and quality is really good as well. And it's a clever way of doing it is when you're recording through your browsers, so you're not got loads of desktop resources being used compared to some other products that I've used. And what they also do is they stream a lower quality version of it up onto as you're doing the interview, so you're not burning bandwidth while you're doing the interview and potentially impacting on the quality of the conversation. And then at the end, it uploads it, the higher quality from your browser. It's just a really good way of doing it. So if you are thinking of doing a podcast and know someone who's doing a podcast, I would recommend using this tool. I found it really good. Best of the tools that I've tried using to date. And you can get that at nigelcreaser.com/riverside, and that will redirect you to my kickback page on their site, and there I will get a little kickback from them. So take a look. Thanks. Well, it's goodbye from me, Nigel Creaser, and it's goodbye from him, the Sunday Lunch PM. Goodbye.